Coming up today in episode 215 of Husavik Heroes, we wrap up our final domestic season of the save, and then off the back of that we play match day 2 and 3 in the Champions League, looking to stay on top of our group as we take on Galatasaray away from home and then Chaves at my arena. That's coming up off the back of the intro. Back to Husavik Heroes here on Shaun Does FM. I hope you are doing well, and if you're looking forward to today's episode, we would really get stuck in to this final Champions League season of this save, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are still enjoying this series here on the channel, also remember to hit that subscribe button and turn that notification bell on as well. It is greatly appreciated, but this is what the group does look like off the back of the first match week in yesterday's episode, as well as an early kickoff between Manchester United and Chaves, with Man United picking up a 5-0 win. But if you did miss yesterday's episode, I'll leave a link to that one over in the top right corner, but going up just a little bit further, you can see we started off in really good fashion there with a 3-0 win over the team who we did defeat in last year's final, and Chaves, one of today's opposition, did beat Galatasaray 1-0 in the other game. So hopefully in today's episode we can start to grab a bit of a gap on the rest of these teams in this group and make it 9 points from 9 halfway through the group stage of the Champions League. But before then, we do just need to recap the final stages of the last domestic season of this save. We did still have to play the Volsungur final off the back of that first game in the group stage in yesterday's episode. It was against second division opposition in Half Nafshidal. That was the reason we didn't show that game to you guys, and in the end I think it was justified. We picked up a very comfortable 6-0 win, quite a one-sided game. That one a hat-trick to Christopher Allegado alongside goals to Shaiti Menga and Paul Helson did mean that we picked up a 6-0 win and won that Volsungur. For the 15th time, and off the back of that we played our final 4 games of the league season, with the title already being guaranteed. We put our first team for the games against HK and Shaun, with a few changes here and there for players with little injuries and on heavy workloads. We picked up a 4-0 win against HK, only 2-0 against Shaun, which was a little bit concerning. A late goal there to Benvenu Beya, just making sure that we did not drop any points. And the rotation team in those other 2 games against Vela and Akranes really put some thumpings on teams, 11-0 and 8-0. So yet again we go for a domestic season without dropping a single point this time. 22 wins from 22 games, end up on 66 points, a goal differential of 114. And that does mean that next season when we do Summit, when we do our looking forward video come the week after the next one, we are going to be in the Champions League yet again. It's actually going to be Nuts KR in Champions League qualifying next season, which is a little bit concerning because I'm not too sure if they're quite strong enough yet to handle that, but a good domestic season there for Nuts KR. HK are automatically going to be in the group stages of the Europa League, and Phil Kier and Akranes will be in qualifying for the Conference League. Phil Kier will get a chance to try and lift that trophy. Yet again, it is KA and Volsungur who are going to get relegated, but we don't need to focus on this too much now, of course, because we just have the League Cup left to play. It's our only domestic trophy that we can still win before we do conclude the knockouts of this current European season. But we'll go back now to what the group does look like off the back of the first game in the Champions League. As mentioned earlier, Manchester United have picked up 3 points on the second match day already with a 5-0 win over Chaves. First things first, we are taking on Galatasaray of Turkey. That is off the back of them losing to Chaves 1-0 on the opening match day. So in theory, this should be a game. In fact, both games today should be games that we are winning quite comfortably alongside Manchester United. A quick look at Galatasaray. They currently find themselves on top of the Super League in Turkey, albeit this should be a team we are a lot stronger than at this point of the save. 3.5-star reputation club, albeit does look like they are playing 5 at the back. And in the past, we have struggled just a little bit against that formation, albeit in recent history, not quite so bad since our squad has been improved quite a bit. Just one little concern that we do have potentially going into this game is our dynamics on the match day of the second game in the Champions League group stage. Both Gabriel Gapan and Bartolomeu Mozquic did come to me and have a few issues with their playing time. Can't do much about Mozquic because he's not registered for the Champions League squad. Gabriel Gapan feels like he will never be good enough for the first team, even though he is actually quite a good centre-back with 3.5-star current ability and the potential as well. So I'm not really too sure where that concern came from, but unfortunately, when I tried to talk to those guys, I think I made both issues worse, and instead of having quite good club atmosphere, that has plummeted down to average, so things not quite as good as they usually would be in terms of our dynamics going into this game, albeit the team cohesion and the managerial support are still in pretty good nick, but hopefully that doesn't affect things too much, especially against opposition like Galatasaray and Chaves. But apart from that, we are at full strength going into this first game of today's episode, putting out pretty much the same team that we put out in that game against Manchester United yesterday, and we'll come back shortly and hopefully make it 6 points from 2 games as we take on Galatasaray in Turkey. And here are the team sheets for this first game of today's episode. Galatasaray actually only playing 4 at the back and then 2-2-2 like that. Quite a few players in the midfield. So hopefully this is definitely a team that we can be beating. And there we are, exactly the same as we were going into that game against Manchester United yesterday. Hopefully we can make it 2 wins from 2. And just a few minutes shy of half time, we have our first highlight of this game. It's been a very, very even first half, which is actually a little bit concerning. It's taken us a while to get going in this game. It does seem to be lately a few times that we have started slow, but hopefully it's not going to hurt us here and we get a chance here right before half time to Adam Saki, but unfortunately he puts that wide. That was the only highlight so far of the first half. We're just starting to edge in front of Galatasaray in terms of stats, but that was a pretty disappointing first half against the team we should definitely be beating. Quite even stats, and we really need to be doing better in games like this. So we'll give the boys a bit of a rev at half-time and get things back underway. Still locked up at 0-0. And it looks like there might be a bit more going on here in the second half. 10 minutes into it, we do have a corner which Basicki gets his head on the end of, just puts that over the top of the crossbar. Lassana Doumbia has picked up a fairly early yellow card here in the second half, so we do have him easing off tackles, not too far off the back of that first highlight in this half. Another chance through a header, but yet again that goes over the bar, and still 0-0 at the hour mark. And just entering the last 20 minutes of this game, certainly playing better than we were in the first half, but still yet to break through. So we are going to make some substitutions. Lassana Doumbia playing quite well, but on a red heart and a yellow card. So I think what we are going to do here is take him off for Bruno Costa. And also Adam Saki's not performing that well. Oripor Halson is quite good as a backup striker these days. We'll give the local lad a bit of game time and hopefully they can help us out here. Still 0-0 with 20 minutes left. And very shortly off the back of those substitutions and also throwing our wing backs onto attack, we do have a throw in there inside the final third. We nearly get a shot off there, but unfortunately Galatasaray do clear that, but we are still on the front foot here inside the final third. And here is a golden chance surely coming up from the penalty spot. That looks like a stone cold penalty. Agatigere gets brought down, and this could be our get out of jail free card here in what has so far been a very, very average performance here in Turkey. And it will be Jean Aves Lapase these days, the penalty taker, to try and put this one away. But that is a really good save there in the top right corner from the Galatasaray goalkeeper. And this could be a bit of an upset here off the subsequent corner. Galatasaray do clear it, and I think that's going to mean we are still going to be locked up here at 0-0 with just over 15 minutes left. And off the back of that, we are going to make one more substitution. Benvenu Bea only going okay on a 6.5. Marcelo Jr. can come on for him, and hopefully we'll go a bit more attacking here in these last 16 minutes as we try and get a goal to give us a win here in Turkey. And nearly inside the last 10 minutes of this one, we have a corner here. Bruno Costa, who is good from set pieces, puts this one into the mixer. Yet again, Galatasaray do hit that one clear, but we still have the ball here just outside of the box. Some good short passing, and poor Halson will put that one in the bottom left corner. Will the Icelandic striker, albeit we are waiting here for a VAR check. Hopefully he was onside and we get out of jail, but yet again the goal has been disallowed this time. Of course, before it was a penalty save from the Galatasaray goalkeeper, and indeed he is just a straight offside there, unfortunately, and we are still locked up at 0-0 with less than 10 minutes left. And we are inside the last 5 minutes of this one, certainly dominant in the second half. You can tell the stats have really turned in our favour. We have gone full on attack, but with not long left of injury time, this is going to be a very, very frustrating result, it looks like. And indeed, that is the case for the first time in a long time. We do not win a game in the Champions League, and that's a little bit of an embarrassing draw there away at Galatasaray. Certainly a game that we should have been winning, even when you do consider the penalty save as well. We still should have been able to get the job done there, I think, especially the way that we played in that second half. If we played like that in the first half, though, we should have picked up a win, but in the end, just took a little bit too long there to get going. So that is a very, very disappointing result there, and that does open the door for Man United if they can get a result in the rematch at Old Trafford later on in this group to potentially jump above us, because we have now slipped up alongside what they did in yesterday's episode against us. We'll have a real go at the boys here because that was not a good performance, and as you will see shortly, we are still going to be on top of the group, but by only 1 point ahead of Man United and Chaves. So that is not a good result there to start off today's episode. Not quite sure how we didn't win that game, but nonetheless, that's a little bit of a setback there, but still on top of the group. Hopefully, we'll turn that around, taking on Chaves at home in the second game of today's episode. But before then, we'll do a little bit of a recap on what has happened on match day 2 with the other Icelandic teams in both the Europa League and the Conference League. And we have gone forward to the point of the second game of today's episode, looking to bounce back from that real WTF draw there against Galatasaray. Really not too sure how we did not pick up a win in that game. Just one of those games where we did somewhat get FM'd and didn't really show up, as I said, for the first half. But before we do preview this one, we are going to go down to the Europa League and, of course, the Conference League to see how our other Icelandic teams are going in those competitions. Group B, I could spot this a little bit earlier. Unfortunately, Natskar, it does look like they're going to be in for a really tough time in that quite strong-looking group there. In the Europa League, they back up their loss yesterday at home against Red Bull Salzburg with a 3-1 defeat away at Rangers. So already it does look like they are going to be in a bit of trouble, even trying to qualify for the Conference League knockouts, bottom of the group, albeit they do still have to play Valencia, but that will probably also be a bit of a tough game. So Natskar are not in good shape. A third of the way through the group stage of the Europa League and going down to Group G, where hopefully things are a little bit better for the defending Conference League champions in Fylkir, and indeed that is the case. It took a penalty in the first half. They actually put their one away, and they pick up a 1-0 win against Basel, and that does mean that for now they are in second spot in their group above Basel due to that head-to-head record, and their next game is against the Lazio team, who it does look like are struggling a little bit, losing their first 2 games of the group against both Leicester and Basel. So hopefully Fylkir can stick inside that top 2 off the back of that third match week, and now making our way down to the Conference League. And yet again, we go down to Group G to see how HK are going, and they have picked up a really good result there at home. They beat Villarreal by 2-0, and that means that they jump above those guys into top spot in that group, and that is a very nice place to be a third of the way through, and they have to take on the team bottom of the group at home in their next game. So hopefully they can stay on top of that group as they take on Ilves out of Finland. So thankfully 2 wins out of 4 for the Icelandic teams on that match day. It was just us who somewhat let things down along with Natskar, but hopefully that means that the coefficient isn't too badly affected, albeit I would say that people would have been banking on us to pick up a few more points there for Iceland in that game against Galatasaray. But next up for us, we are taking on Chaves out of Portugal. This would be a really good game to win, of course, because we are trying to get a little bit closer to Portugal in 6th spot on the coefficient table. So hopefully, when we do sim forward a few years, Iceland can make that position stick and be the best of the rest outside those top 5 nations. On the UEFA coefficient, having a quick look at our opposition today, they currently find themselves 8 in the Portuguese league. So this is definitely a team we should be beating, albeit we did say that earlier. Looks like they're going to be playing a 4-2-3-1, and they're also a 3.5-star reputation club. Pretty similar case to the first game, but this time it is at home. Hopefully we're a little bit better in front of goal. We have done quite a bit of chance conversion training, seeing as we could actually fit it in this time. We had a big block of games before that most recent one, the first one of today's episode. This time a good stretch of a bit more focused training on just the one game. So hopefully that pays off, and hopefully as well, those dynamic issues aren't quite as bad, even though everything does look quite similar. In fact, it looks a little bit worse now because our team cohesion has gone down, but hopefully things are a little bit more settled this time and we can put out a much better performance, albeit we are going to have to do that without Elaine Basicki. He is going to be out for this game with a twisted ankle, so we'll reveal how we have dealt with that shortly when we do come back for the team sheets, and hopefully here we can get back on track and try and stay on top of this group. Man United have already beat Galatasaray in the early kickoff on this match day by a scoreline of 2-0 at home, so Galatasaray are putting up a little bit of a fight in this group despite being in bottom spot for now. But if we want to stay top of the group, we do need to win this game. Hopefully we can do that at home. We'll come back shortly with the team sheets from my arena as we take on Chaves. And here are the team sheets for the second game of today's episode. With that injury to Elaine Basicki, Basaroge goes back to his original home of the defensive midfield role. Erdan Shaihi makes his way into the centre-back role, and that does mean that Cristiano Limiero makes his way onto the bench in place of where Erdan Shaihi usually would be, and there were Chaves before. Completely missed that as I was explaining our team, but as I said, we need 3 points here to try and stay on top of the group and bounce back from that shock draw at Galatasaray. And 10 minutes into this one, we have our first highlight, so it looks like things are going to kick into gear a little bit quicker than they did away at Galatasaray in that first game of today's episode, and hopefully we can get on the front foot here nice and early, because that previous performance really wasn't good enough. Hopefully, as I mentioned earlier, that chance conversion training that we have been doing pays off here, and an early chance for Adam Saki, albeit hits that one straight at the path of the Chaves goalkeeper. So far he's been a little bit rough in today's episode, I think it is fair to say, albeit off the subsequent corner. Basaroge flicks that one far post, and Agustin Agatigere is there to tuck it away, and just like that we finally score a goal in today's episode and get a 1-0 lead here at the 11-minute mark. Dumbia puts this ball into the mixer. Basaroge just flicks that one on nicely, and Agatigere just squeezes that in the back of the net to give us an early 1-0 lead. And only a few minutes off the back of that opening highlight, it was Chaves there who were on the attack, but thankfully we do deal with that danger and now look to play out from the back and hopefully can build up a good gap early in this one. We try and play the ball forward here to Adam Saki, plays that one back to Lapase, and steadily try and make our way now into the opposition half, and we do through Lapase, plays that back to Basaroge. Nice ball out there for Jonathan Berger and for Bayer Lapase. Some wonderful short passing, and this time Adam Saki is going to find the back of the net, and now we have a 2-goal cushion after only 15 minutes, and no doubt this game is going to be an absolute pumping, and we probably could have used one of these goals in that first game of today's episode, but nonetheless, this has been a really good start from us here. Adam Saki puts that one away and gives us a 2-0 lead after only 15 minutes. And in fact, we have the restart immediately off the back of that second goal, so there's lots of action early in this game, a lot compared to the first game of today's episode anyway, and Chaves will probably need a goal back here if they want to make their way back into this one, but they give the ball away immediately, very much like Rangers against Liverpool this morning, just pumping the ball deep and having absolutely no one home. And yet again, we get a chance here to play out from the back. Agatigere switches that one to the midfield. Bayer to Lapase. Should find Berger here in quite a bit of space out on the left-hand side. Indeed, he does. He just takes his time, plays that one back to Erdan Shaihi. Now Berger will play this one up to Lapase, plays that one in for Benvenu Bayer, and now we get this good short passing going right inside the box, and that's a wonderful square there from Benvenu Bayer, and Agatigere will pick up his second goal of the game after only 17 minutes, and already this is looking like it might be a long day at the office for Chaves here in Iceland. Some really good short passing here in and around the edge of the box, and then Bayer very unselfishly squares that from for Agatigere. He picks up a double, and very early on, we already have a 3-0 lead, and not too long off the back of that third goal, we now have a free kick. We put this far post, Erdan Shaihi can't quite put that one on target, and after 20 minutes, still 3-0 Volsungur. And nothing happening off the back of those opening 20 minutes in this one, but a lot happier with how that first half went compared to the first game of today's episode. Complete domination, and we have a 3-0 lead going into the sheds, and very happy with how everyone is playing as well. So no changes needed, and we'll get things back underway here with a 3-0 lead. And we go up to the 52-minute mark for our first highlight of the second half. We are about to have a free kick here, and Lapase will get a chance to get on the score sheet. Tries to put that top right corner. It goes just over it, and it remains 3-0 here early in the second half, albeit right off the back of that. Another highlight as we do get shown the goal kick, but we will win the ball back immediately from that clearance. And Filippo Dinelli now takes his time on the ball, plays that back to Basaro Gay, who I believe won that ball off the back of that goal kick from the goalkeeper. And Dumbia now gets this forward to Agatigere, of course, is on a hat-trick, but a long ball over the top here for Adam Saki. He gets brought down this time by Gill, and I think this means that Agatigere will get a chance from the penalty spot to get a hat-trick. We'll just wait here and make sure that VAR thinks that that was a penalty. Indeed, it wasn't. Hopefully this time we actually put it in the back of the net. Indeed, it is. Agatigere also goes for that top right corner, but he puts it away. If only Lapase did that in the first game of today's episode, we would be in a much stronger position in the group. But we look like we're going to hold on to top spot here. 10 minutes into the second half, Agatigere completes his hat-trick and makes it 4-0 Volsungur. And we go all the way forward to the 72-minute mark for our next highlight in this game. We're going to make a few substitutions off the back of this one, so the players who do come on get enough time to get a match rating. But yet again, we start to get on the front foot here, and it looks like some good short passing on the edge of the box. Decent chance there for Lapase, but can't quite beat the goalkeeper at his near post, so he keeps it at 4-0 for now, albeit we'll see what happens off the subsequent corner, but no one can get their head on the end of that one, so I think that will probably do it for this highlight. We'll just make sure as Basaro Gay is on the ball, but he can't quite find Agatigere from that ball over the top, and indeed it is time for us to make a triple substitution. Agatigere did really well today, completing a hat-trick, so we'll take him off for Malizio Minga. Also, Lasana Dumbia usually goes down to a red hard in these games, so Bruno Costa can come on for him. And apart from that, Jonathan Berger is the one player not on a very good rating. So what I think we're going to do here is bring on Christopher Allegard, who's been in some really good form domestically, to end the season for Jonathan Berger. He can play right back, and Radinko Krolo can switch out to left back for these last 16 minutes as we still hold a 4-0 lead. And in fact, right off the back of making those substitutions, before they can make their way onto the pitch, we have another highlight starting here at the 74-minute mark, and we are right on the attack here inside of the Chaves half, and Denali starts to run forward here into that final third. Krolo now will find Agatigere, chance here for him to make it 4, but just puts that on the wrong side of the post before he goes off, and it is still 4-0 Volsungur. And not too long off the back of that previous highlight, free kick here, which this time Allegard will take. Tried to find the top left corner there, but a decent save from the Chaves goalkeeper. We'll keep it at 4-0 for now. We'll see if anything comes from the subsequent corner, but this time we can't get our head on the end of it, and it does remain 4-0 as Basaro Gay there gets robbed of the ball. And going forward a few minutes off the back of that previous free kick, very similar position here for Allegado. I think before it was actually Bayer who got robbed of the ball instead of Gay, and he goes for the exact same spot, but yet again, that is a pretty good save there from the Chaves goalkeeper. So Allegado certainly getting some chances off of the bench yet again, though, can't do much off the back of the subsequent corner, and it looks like that will probably be this highlight as Chaves try and get on the front foot. In fact, a good chance here for Gill as he makes his way inside the box. They try and get a shot off, but can't get it off. It is blocked, and we now try and get something going here, potentially on the counter-attack, but Costa can't quite link up with Menga. Still 4-0 inside the last 10 minutes. And just inside the last 5 minutes of this one, yet again a free kick here as we try and make it 5-0 before we do wrap up the second game of today's episode. As mentioned earlier, one of these goals would have been quite useful in that previous game against Galatasaray, but at the very least we are playing a lot better than we did in that first game of today's episode. And that's a nice square there from Malizio Menga, and Benvenu Bayer will score yet another goal in this season's Champions League. We'll get a sneaky praise in there before this game does finish, and that will make it 5-0. And in the end, this is a much, much better performance than we did put out in that first game of today's episode. Good work there from Menga. Just create a little bit of space to put that ball into Bayer, and he finds the bottom left corner from just inside the penalty spot, and that will make it 5-0, and that will probably do it for this game. Only 2 minutes of injury time, and that means that we are going to stay on top of this group, albeit if we had been a bit better in that first game of today's episode, it would be by a much better margin than the 1 point over Man United than it currently is, but this result should at the very least mean that we grab a good gap over both Chaves and Galatasaray as the bottom two teams in this group. As mentioned before, that was a very dominant performance, a lot better over the 90 minutes than we put out in that game against Galatasaray. And with that early result in mind, this is what the group does look like. Halfway through, we do stay on top of the group as mentioned before, but only 1 point clear of Manchester United off the back of that draw in the first game of today's episode. Chaves are 4 points behind us, and Galatasaray, despite giving a little bit of cheek in today's episode, are still bottom of the group. But it does look like we should get our way out of this group. But certainly today's episode does mean that second game against Manchester United at Old Trafford is going to have quite a bit riding on it, but we'll come back shortly and check in on how the other Icelandic teams got on in match week 3 in the Europa and Conference Leagues before we wrap things up for today's episode. And we are back with the Icelandic update for match day 3, and we start off with Natskar in the Europa League. And as we suspected before, Natskar are absolute rubbish. They suffer a 2-0 defeat there away at Valencia, now in a real hurting position there. It looks like they are not going to do much for us in the Europa League group, making our way down to Group G, where hopefully things are a bit better for Phil Kerr. And indeed that is the case. They pick up a 2-1 win against Lazio, thanks to very, very early goals there by some players with Volsungur links in Vatsdal and Jablonski. So they are now 3 points behind Leicester in second place, but also 3 points clear of Basel in third as they suffer a 3-0 defeat to Leicester. So at the moment, Phil Kerr doing a good job, and hopefully they will actually make their way into the knockouts of the Europa League, but at the very least will sneak down into the Conference League as well. So they are in quite a strong position halfway through the Europa League group and going down to the Conference League. Hopefully HK are also doing a good job there in Group G, and indeed that is the case. They do stay on top of their group as we suspected they might. They pick up a 2-1 win, albeit did have to come from behind there at home against Ilves, but that does mean they are on 7 points, much like us in our Champions League group, 1 point ahead of their nearest rival, and that is Villarreal of Spain. Omanoia are further 4 points back, in Ilves at the bottom there on 1 point. So HK also in a strong position. That is good, of course, because you need a top 2 finish in the Conference League. Can't drop down to one of the lower competitions like you can, of course, in the Champions League and the Europa League. So on a whole, I think that episode went pretty well for the other Icelandic teams. Natskar apart, just that first game that we played in today's episode, very, very disappointing. And that does mean that we have opened the door so that Man United could potentially go above us should we not get the job done somewhat at Old Trafford on the 5th match day in our Champions League group. But at the very least, we are still on top of that group, so can't complain too much. We'll come back tomorrow and do the rematch against Chaves. We'll actually go over to the group screen for this because my face cam will probably be blocking it, but we will play the 4th match day. We travel away to take on Chaves, and Galatasaray host Manchester United. Hopefully they can do us a bit of a favour there and give a little bit of cheek like they did against us in the first game of today's episode. And I'd imagine we'll also in tomorrow's episode do our last end of season review for this save and see how the best 11 for this past season and the overall best 11 does look, and how that will finish up for my time in charge in this save. It's a little bit funny, of course, because we do still have quite a few European games to play, but because we are in Iceland, that is where the end of season review does fall, and that means we are going to end the week with what should be quite a tasty episode, taking on both Manchester United and Galatasaray, and there should be quite a bit riding on those games at the end of this week. And also, of course, we will have the first knockout round draw for the Champions League, provided that we don't bottle things and somehow end up in the first knockout round draw for the Europa League. If that was the case, I might get sacked anyway, so we'll see what happens come the end of this week. But if you did enjoy today's episode, a bit of a rough result, as I said, against Galatasaray, but bouncing back nicely with a win against Chaves, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying this series here on the channel, also remember to hit that subscribe button and turn that notification bell on as well. And until tomorrow, as I said, definitely for that Chaves game, probably also the end of season review. But until then, thank you very much for watching. Keep on keeping on, and I'll see you then. Cheers.